Hey, so today on Catherine Learns Stuff, we're going to learn how to make a pinata out of empty cereal boxes, because if you have kids, you have lots of cereal eating at your house and you'll have lots of supplies to make a quick and easy pinata. So what we need some empty cereal boxes, fancy glue gun, and a little bit of tissue paper. I use all the stuff that I've got left over from birthday party gifts, so let's get started. First thing that we're going to do, break up our boxes, and we're going to use sort of one box per pinata. So we're going to make a kind of an oval out of a pencil and then just cut it out with some scissors. Okay, so we're just going to freehand an oval-ish shape here. We could make it just a rectangle if we wanted to, but I'm going to go for an oval this time. Not perfect, but good enough. So just using scissors, I'm going to cut it out. I'm going to make sure to keep this sort of end pieces safe because we're going to try to use those as part of the pinata later. Okay, so we have our one box cut into an oval-ish shape. We're going to trace it on the other box so that we have two pieces that are the exact same size. Once that's traced, we're going to cut that out as well, and we'll be ready for the next steps. All right, so we've got two pieces that are the same size, and next we need to cut up some more of the cardboard box to get some walls. Typically I go about 2 to 3 inches of thickness so that we've got our pinatas about that thick. So that's what we're gonna do next. So just with the extra boxes that we've got and the pieces that we have left over from our original boxes, we can start cutting up a bunch of strips, and we'll need enough to go all the way around the outer perimeter of the oval that we've got. I find that it's easiest to use these edge pieces of the boxes because then they're all the same size and you don't need to worry about measuring specific sizes. Okay, so we've cut out a bunch of the side panels from our cereal boxes, and that I've got just enough to go all the way around, so I needed about 5. Just something that's important to remember is not all cereal boxes are made the same. So I was cutting one out and I noticed that the edges were really flimsy. So like it just kind of super easily bends, whereas these ones are a little bit more rigid. So I'm using the more rigid cereal boxes to give the pinata a little bit more life and make the kids work a little bit harder for their rewards. So the next thing that we do, slowly we just start to glue all the pieces up onto the edges here and make our walls. I think it's important to remember you want all of the designs to be pointing inwards, because when we use tissue paper later to cover this up, having the design on the outside will come through the tissue paper and you'll have to use a lot more to cover that up. So we want to keep it simple, so make sure the design on all the edges, on all the sides, is facing inwards. Okay, so I've got my box mostly glued on the one side. I've left a little area here that I can put candies in later, so that, because those go in sort of near the very end. And I've also gone around and given an extra bead of glue on the inside to make it a little bit more secure, and I will do that again on the outside once I'm done with the front of the box. And now that I'm looking at this, I realize that I put my labels facing outwards, so I will have to work extra hard to cover that with my tissue paper later. So note to self, make sure that you do that the other way, because that's going to be a pain for me later. So next we're going to glue on this top piece. This one is a little bit more tricky because it has to fit on top and you don't have full access, so it's a little bit harder. I like to put a bead of glue around the top edges and on the inside here, and then squish it together. As well, this is a spot where I will be using a lot of extra glue on the outside to make sure that it's all sticking pretty well, because we want this pinata to hold together for at least a few smashes. So I have the shape of my pinata right now. This is my flap here to put the candies in. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go around and I'm going to put more glue around all of the edges, especially on the top side where it was just loosely glued together. And so it should take probably about 1 whole glue stick to get all these edges cleaned up, but gonna glue them down pretty good so that it all stays nice and secure. But we're gonna remember to keep this flap open. All right, so I've gone ahead and glued all the edges here. I've pretty much glued them beyond vision, so you can't see any of the seams here. Don't worry that it looks kind of ugly right now, because we're gonna put tissue paper and make it look pretty in a minute. But I've gone ahead and glued every single spot here. Go around and just double check it and make sure there's no spots that seem loose. Don't forget you have to have your gap here. But give it another check. Don't be stingy on glue. It's just gonna hold the box better together. And it's all gonna be covered up so you won't see any of the imperfections that are hiding. So now we're gonna get ready to do our tissue papering. What we need is tissue paper and just some regular white Elmer's glue. Okay, so leftover tissue paper from a bunch of birthday parties and gifts that we've had. So I'm just gonna cut this up into strips so that it is big enough to go over the edge of the sort of the side of the pinata. I'm not gonna worry about the front and the back because I'm gonna put some paper on top of that with my design. So I'm just gonna cut this up with my fancy paper cutter. Okay, so I've got a few pieces that are thicker, which are about the same size as the width of the side panels of my pinata. I had to do this for this project because I forgot to flip my box inside out. And then I've got some smaller pieces that I'm gonna add on top for some accent points to make it a little bit more exciting for the kids. So just gonna glue on the big strips first, let that dry, and then I'll put the small ones on. Okay, so my pinata box has now a nice little fluff around the outside. A lot of it you won't see, but it just kind of makes it look a little nicer when you're, just before you break it, right? So I've still got my gap here, which I'm gonna close at the very end once I've got all my candy, but all my designs and everything done. So next what I'm gonna do is I've got a design planned out. My idea here is we're gonna have a big COVID molecule because we're having a COVID party. So what better way to celebrate COVID than to smash it, right? So on top of this, we're gonna put on both sides a big sort of COVID molecule, which is gonna cover all of this area so we don't need to worry about the color there. So I just got a piece of poster board from the dollar store. It's about 29 by 26 inches wide. And I'm gonna have two sort of circles on here that are about the size of my pinata. So it should fit, hopefully, two of them, perfect size for me. So that's the plan. I'm just gonna sketch them out here and we'll get going from there. So I have my two COVID molecules. I'm just going to glue them right on top of my pinata. So a little bit miscalculation here, so I need to fill in some additional red here on the sides, but that should be okay. And then glue them on, and off we go. Okay, so I've just put on a design onto my COVID molecule, so I've just stickers. And now what I'm going to do is I have to fill this full of candy, but I'm also going to put my ribbon on here quickly with some glue, so I've got something to attach it to our tree with. So I'm just going to use hot glue, and then I get to fill in the candy into the hole. Something that I like to do with that, though, when you're watching this in 1 minute, I put newspaper in there as well to sort of disperse the candy and make it a little bit harder for the candy to fall out once they've made the initial holes. Okay, so now Pinata's full. I just need to seal it off. So before, when we were doing our edges, I did an extra piece to close up the Pinata. So that's just gonna go right here. I'm just gonna hot glue it on into place. And then I think our Pinata is done. And there we have it, our Pinata's done.